So we have a decent task on our hands, right? GCCs, engines of reinvention, right? So how many of you believe that the GCCs in India are today engines of reinvention for their organizations, right? Can I quickly see a show of hands? Wow, that's great. So most of the people here in the room believe that GCCs are engines of reinvention. So I don't have to establish that fact that they are in fact, but then it also gives us an opportunity to focus ourselves on what exactly is happening that makes it an engine for reinvention. So with that introduction, because we are about 8 of us and we got to finish this in about 40 minutes, so we won't invest a lot of time in introductions. Is that okay? Yeah? We'll get right into the discussion. The panel basically is divided into 3 tracks, and the first one is role of GCCs in driving digital transformation, right? Now, digital transformation is widely used and many times, if I may say, abused term. So I would like my panelists to share with you all the kind of experiences, real life experiences that they have had, and share some of the best practices also that could allow you all to take something back from this panel discussion. So I will get right into it, if that's okay. Sure. So the first question, and I'll try to set some context about it. According to NASSCOM, more than about 70% of GCC in India are now involved in driving digital transformation initiatives for their parent organizations, right? So it's kind of a fact. But the question here is, how has the role of GCCs evolved from back office support function to driving innovation and digital strategies? So this is the question, and I would like to go straight to Dipu and hear his thoughts on it.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a good event. I see the energy is a little bit in this room. I need a little bit more energy. So, what a wonderful question. What a wonderful transition as well, right? Back office, your call centers, all those things were the thing about India. All that has changed, not only from the fact that basically I would say the new generation of India, the new energy, what we can do, we've actually proven that we could be anyone basically. And just the calls, that I'm still getting at this point, basically is distracting me. Sorry about that. So right now, when you look at, the things that, that are being done in the GCC level in India, we used to be called IBM Watson Health. We are in the IBM labs. We are now a separate company called Merative. We are in the healthcare. We have about 5 products. All of our employees here are basically just like any other employee of any other branch in Merative, right? So the principal architect here is basically judged against the same level role in the US. And yes, the cost center is definitely better here, but we are as good as any other employee in the world. That strength, that energy, I think that also comes with the new generation as well, right? India used to be looked at, if there's we are very good technically, but what you call as the soft skills, which I say it's not really a soft skill, it's actually the hard skills, where in a basically a session where you need to speak up, we used to be very nice to sit back. That has all changed. We are as good as anyone. Our employees know that. They know that there is no glass ceiling. They can be the next level global leaders for the company. So that's the new GCC.
Thanks, Dipu. And with that context, I come to you, Anil. How do you see GCCs driving innovation and strategies rather than just being a mere back office?
Yeah, just to build on the previous pointers. Definitely, GCCs are thriving in terms of transforming as a center of excellences, more of a strategic entities of the parent organization. I think it's about how do we align to the parent organization business initiatives. And most important is how do we create the global roles out of the GCC entity. And in addition to that, aligning the talents to the global, landscape of the initiatives, right? It's about, having a common
Great, thanks. And with that, I come to you, Shrirang. You from Infosys, so I come straight to the matter without taking a name if that is how it needs to be done. What innovation and strategy you have seen GCCs driving? If you can give an example.
Yeah, so I think the key word is driving digital transformation. You can be part of digital transformation if you're just, supporting it. The key word is driving. Infosys works with more than 100 GCCs today. Two stories I want to give, two examples. One is a large, one might say a legacy GCC, which has got tens of thousands of people. I was speaking to their head of innovation, who mentioned that now, some of the projects that they're doing, they've got business stakeholders, technology stakeholders, and operations all in the same GCC, in the same location. So imagine the kind of speed with which they're able to execute now. They are not waiting for that 12-hour window of someone, giving them the approval or giving them the insights. They are churning things out much faster. The second example, Manish, of driving is this. Going back to your point about leadership roles, I was speaking to a client of ours who has got a relatively small for financial service system, about 2,000 member GCC. In that 2,000, they've got 40 people playing global roles. 40. So again, this is the word. They're not just participating; they're driving. So to summarize, I would say that these two stories, what I want to bring out is that technology, we always had the capability, and with AI, everyone is roughly at the same level. What has changed in the last 20 years is domain. There's a lot more domain knowledge in our country now than was there in the years gone by. And lastly, the leadership role. So people can take decisions and actually make things happen at a faster pace. So that's my answer to your question.
Great, and that's a great segue for us to get into the next phase of this track. To begin with, in 2012, there were about 760 odd GCCs that were operating out of India. By 2016, the number reached about 1,000, and today we are about 1,800 odd GCCs, which is about 50% of world's GCCs that are housed in India. Now the question that we have is, how can Indian GCCs continue to stay competitive on a global stage and further strengthen its position as a global leader in tech innovation? I'll come to you, Arpita, with this question.
Sure, thank you. I'll pick up from where you said, you spoke about the number of GCCs. There's a lot of excitement in India about how many more new GCCs are going to enter in the next couple of years. One very relevant point is there are almost 1,000 GCCs that have been here for more than 10 years. So what's a lot more relevant to remain competitive is how do these existing GCCs that are fully mature remain relevant? And therefore, from that standpoint, transformation is going to be very critical. Transformation of how they operate and everything else. I was at a conference in Orlando recently, and there was a poll for fully automated processes with AI. What is the cost saving that they are driving? And about 100,000 to 250,000 US, which means firms that have successfully implemented agentic AI in particular have seen 100,000 to 250,000 dollars of saving. What that means is firms that have been, or GCCs that have been here for more than 10 years, they've already given a lot of cost and value arbitrage to their parent company. So if they have to remain relevant, how do they use AI? How do they use agentic AI in particular to remain relevant, I believe is going to be really important.
Great. And I would request you, Vikas, to add to Arpita.
Yeah, definitely. GenAI or agentic AI, that has actually helped shared service centers or GCCs in transforming their operations, their mandates. One thing is whether it was human or it is agents, the agentic AI, they need to process a lot of information. And in GCCs, they need to deal with information coming from multiple countries. So one key aspect what GCCs should be focusing, and while we deal with GCCs, we have been supporting them is information governance side. Because it is very important when information is coming, and because the regulators, the compliances are very strong. So when information is coming to you for processing, you need to be very cognizant how it is used, who is accessing it, and how it will be, disposed of. So, because if there is some mishap, some leak, it is going to cost a lot, okay? Not only in terms of money, but in terms of reputation also. So the key aspect for, GCCs in India to focus is around building compliance and a robust information management policy governance.
Great. Thanks, Vikas. And with that, we try to go a little specific in this phase. And I would like to share with you that around 30% of the new GCCs set up in India during Q3 of FY23 were in the semiconductor space, signaling a growing interest in leveraging the local talent pool in areas spanning from front-end design, performance testing, and post-silicon validation, right? We're very happy that Pradip is with us. And the question that I have you for Pradip is, with the growing global demand for chips, how can India-based GCCs play a strategic role in addressing supply chain and innovation challenges in this space?
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity. He has given me 4 minutes, so you'll hear me a little longer. Don't get bored. Warning up front. So, India is at the cusp of transformation. When I took my first job in a GCC 32 years ago, I was a fresh graduate. I joined as an R&D engineer. 6 months, 7 months into, and this is time before internet was invented. And 6, 7 months into the job, we received these boards from the parent company. We repair them, we test them, and then we discard them, right? And so after 6, 7 months of doing this, I asked him, I'm in R&D, how come I don't get to invent anything, right? And I was told by my manager that R&D here stands for repair and demolish. You guys are being trained. Right? Today, that's not the case. We are doing true R&D here, right? So that's the level of growth that we have seen, right, over past 30 years. But where we are at the cusp in India is the transformation of the economy. There was a time where if you took a job in the government sector, you were perceived having a great job. If you said that you worked in a private segment, even if it was a GCC, the wedding prospects, marriage prospects will reduce. And that can I speak from my own experience. The next decade is of entrepreneurship in India. And the GCCs are not going to be something that somebody else sets up for you, and then you're a captive resource. It's about entrepreneurs stepping up to identify what innovation would be relevant for local economy, local consumers, local pain points, developing solutions at affordable price points, and collaborating with the parent company to champion India as a geography for innovation that is targeted to our geography. And I see a lot of youngsters nowadays coming out of incubation centers in universities and going into putting their own startups. And these startups, 4 or 5 years of journey, they really develop something meaningful, and global companies go and acquire them, right? And they become GCC, right? So there is a lot more thrust. So there are three kinds of GCCs that historically have been there, and our proportions have been changing over a period of time. One is resource augmentation GCC. Second is co-work or the co-engineering GCC. And third is center of excellence, right? In very early days of GCC, we were all resource augmentation. Something that somebody thought was too expensive to be done elsewhere, they would think, okay, we can get cost arbitrage in India. And we were augmenting their value. Then it shifted to co-engineering or collaborative work, where we started owning the same project that's being executed in 2 geographies, but the talent level in India is on par in producing results, productivity, innovation, and so on. And then it has graduated to center of excellence, where the parent company just hands it over saying that, okay, you guys got the leadership, you guys have the soft skills, you have the hard skills, you have the technology, go do it, let me know what you need, give me a budget, and we can operate as independent entity. And I think in chip design sector, I can say, I've been through and through in chip design sector, so that's all I know. But we have seen that there is one holy grail, as we call, which is a chip cannot have a bug. Chip cannot have a defect. If chip has a defect, there is almost a $50 to $70 million worth of effort required to redo it, right? mistakes are not tolerated, right? It's like a surgery where you can't make a mistake. And parent companies used to have a lot of, let's hold on to the crucial work or the core work, because does the GCC have skin in the game, right? Would they really pay that level of attention, be able to bring that level of talent, and really produce a world-class quality, right? I'm happy to say that today, that the Indian workforce working out of India contributes to close to 30 to 35% of chips that are developed worldwide out of India, right?
Great, wonderful.
And that's our story. And just one last sentence, if I may. What's changing now is we have also, so government has given a lot of PPP initiative to manufacture in India, right? And now there are new GCCs coming up in chip industry, which are regarding setting up manufacturing plants, right? So we are graduating again from design and innovation into manufacturing, and that's where we have huge potential to compete with China and other countries that are currently into ATMP, semiconductor, and fabrication. And I think the role of the India GCC talent and the head now is to get that pipeline filled by championing India as a geography, foundries in India as a supply chain, and ensuring that the manufacturing of those products that are designed here also get manufactured here, right? And that's the next decade worth of mission for India to grow. That's where I'll stop. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Pradip. Really appreciate good insights and good direction as well. So, and that brings us to the second track in this panel discussion, which is about Indian GCCs embracing emerging technologies, right? Again, a very common term, but what specific is happening is something that we'll try to take a dip into. And the question that I have is, what are the GenAI or automation transition challenges, opportunities, and implementation prioritization in Indian GCCs? And I'll go straight to a practitioner with this question, Dipu.
All right, thank you, Mukesh. So, as you say, you learn a lot from failure. So, we come from IBM Watson Health. We were AI a decade before OpenAI was even open. So, learned a lot. You have to have very specific, use cases. You cannot go to a doctor who had spent 10, 15 years and an oncologist, right? And just say, hey, we have a software, we can detect 13 cancers, we'll take care of it, right? You think it's going to be successful? It's not going to happen. So now it's a lot about, there's a lot of hype, but at the same time, for AI to be successful, it's all about correct use cases that are going to improve every function of the business. And it's not just the back operations, it's about the product, it's about the user, and very targeted, I would say, investments in developing use cases that will help our customers, right? So it's much more about targeted investments. You got to make sure that you have an ROI. You got to make sure you're not just throwing away money. You are investing it in the right way and kind of going from there.
Great. And the statistics tells us there are about 70% of the centers in India that are investing in AI, but 78% are actually upskilling their talent on. So even those who are not investing right now, they have plans to invest because they are upskilling their talent, right? So, and I come to Anil with the same question for your remarks.
I think coming from the same background, right, as you mentioned about the clinical trials, the right point is about how we, align the AI use cases to the business value. And the other challenge is about talent, right, upskilling the talent to the, AI capabilities. That's the second one. Third one is about the regulatory and compliance, especially pharma, right, highly regulated environment, a lot of compliances, where we deal with PHI, right. I think compliance and regulatory is another challenge. And talking about the opportunities, right, I think especially in whether it is pharma, retail, right, it's about hyper-personalized customer experience. That's the one of the greatest opportunity where, you can bring in the AI capabilities to, leverage, the impact. And the second thing is about, workflows, right? A lot of low risk, high impact, right? Those are the areas we think we should target in terms of creating value out of the AI adoption.
Great.
Yeah. And the prioritization is how do you identify the problem statement, right? Do we have the right problem statement, what we are going to solve? I think it's not about force fitting the AI into the ecosystem. Right.
Great. And then, we hosting about 50% of global GCCs. The global brands trusted India as a destination because of the sheer quality of talent, the quantity of talent available, and we having the experience of driving innovation globally for global brands. Now, there are already 1,800 here, but we were talking about that, if you look at the large market segment, about 4,000 or 5,000 companies in US, mid-market below 2,000, about 4,000 companies. And then beyond North America, if you look at other places, that's about 12,000 odd companies universe, and we have 1,800 over here. The question is, what more is about to come to India? Who's going to come next? And how they're going to come? And what kind of incremental role we from India can play. And for that, GCC-as-a-service model also is gaining traction in India at this point of time, and enabling on-demand capabilities without large upfront investments from the parent brands. So the question here is, how can organizations or global brands balance outsourcing and in-house management in a GCC-as-a-service model? And I'll go to Arpita with this question.
Sure, thanks. So, when organizations are setting up their offshore operations, they no longer are evaluating, do I need to set up a captive GCC, or do I have to set up an outsourcing center? So most of the clients are pursuing a hybrid, or what we call a hybrid captive strategy. So now from a setup perspective, or how they will drive that strategy, it's increasing, the whole GCC as a service model becomes increasingly relevant. If clients are driving their business as innovation in a hybrid captive kind of model, they have to be serviced with a similar mindset, which means the more modular your solution is, the more flexibility the client has, or the company who's setting up their GCC has, to design their innovation process in a manner that it is best in class and market leading. So therefore, from a GCC as a service model perspective, if it's the more modular it is, the more options it provides to a client to choose what is relevant becomes increasingly important. I guess from our standpoint as well, when we launched our GCC advisory, we set up what we call an assisted DIY model, which is somewhere in between a BOT model, everything is hard-coded, you have to take the whole box, versus a DIY model, you have to do everything by yourself, you have to learn as you go. So we came up with what we're calling an assisted DIY model, which really brings together an ecosystem of best-in-class partners and people, a modular solution, and it's a classic GCC as a service model. As a client or as a company that is setting up their GCC for the first time, you choose what's best fit for you and design it for yourself.
So is it safe to say that it makes it easy for brands or big companies to get things done?
To suit their context, yes.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Great. And then I get to Vikas with the same question for his inputs.
Yeah, I would take our example first. Okay, as an Iron Mountain, it's a global organization, having footprint into 70 plus countries. So having footprint into 70 plus countries, and sometime we also took a decision to build our own, GCC. And finally, we have a GCC in Bangalore, which is supporting not only India operations but global operations. So idea is, when somebody is setting up a GCC, you need to know what are those core processes which you need to retain with you, and what is those, functions which you would like to outsource. And depending on your strategy, how soon you want to go live with it. So if you have deep pockets and you have time wherein you can build in-house, center of excellence, definitely having our own captive works. But if you want to go live quickly and few things should run in parallel, be it hiring, setting it up, and you want to test the waters, then probably GCC as a service will work. And there are mature players in the market now which could complement your strategy. One key aspect what we need to look at, because it is all about how well equipped that partner is and how well they are aligned to your digital transformation strategy. So it shouldn't be that you are you are investing a lot of money, upskilling your people and all, but having a partner, who's not aligned to that could be a deal breaker. So what we should be, a GC entity which is considering GCC-as-a-service should be looking at is not a partner for today, but a partner for future, who can be aligned, who can be your innovation partner, who can help you to navigate the tech innovations and complement your business strategy and make an impact to your revenue stream rather than just operational excellence. That's mine.
Great, thanks, and very valid points, very valuable inputs. And ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to third track of our panel discussion. Hopefully we will have some time for Q&A session also after the panel, so I would request you all to note down a question or two so that we get to that. But yeah, the track 3 is evolving GCCs and future landscapes of GCCs in India, right? And on that track, the context is that the role of GCCs continuously kept evolving over the last decade or so. And next-gen centers look very different from what the centers were, as Pradip was also referring to R&D. I have, by the way, never heard that definition, right? But the things have changed and they are continuously evolving. So the question is, how do we, or my esteemed panelists, foresee the GCCs of future? What capabilities must today's centers build on to lead the next wave of reinvention? And I'll come to you, Pradip, to further add to the comments that you made before.
Sure. Thank you so much. I just want to ask a fundamental question. What was the purpose of GCC? How did GCC came around, right? It came around to offer our talent, which is world-class, to support the globe with what they need to get done. That's how the GCCs came around. What fueled the growth of the GCC? Internet and communication. Now there are cross-site collaborations and all these things we talk about. If internet and communication technology was not efficient, GCC would have had its challenges to grow to the level it succeeded as a business model, right? Now what's coming is an AI. And I'm 2.5 years into the AI, and I'm not hyping it, but I really want to make this statement to my oncologist friend here, that AI is a tsunami. Those who will learn to swim with it will do great. Those who will resist it under one pretext or other will actually get washed out. I think GCCs, it's time to really double down on the AI. What's happening between the China-US geopolitics, we have become well aware about chips and manufacturing and why we should manufacture and all that. There is another dimension happening on the other side of the world between Ukraine and Russia, and we are sort of only viewing that as some kind of a land conflict. But what we are missing out on, the Eastern European countries are really doubling down on their investments and skills in the field of AI. And our GCCs, at least many service providers that I speak with, they are trying to build further on their success of last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And I think that's an old model. Oftentimes what feeds us has a limited capability unless we really evolve, right? So AI is the way of future. I think there is no way to ignore it, right? And secondly, the manufacturing is going to creep in a major way to the GCC, which we may be at the very beginning or maybe even a nascent stage. Robotics and AI, why do you think that President Trump is pushing so hard for tariffs on everybody, right? The only area where the cost arbitrage is really left is in manufacturing, because there's still a lot of human effort involved. But with the AI and robotics, manufacturing is going to be, the cost is going to be the same no matter where you make it, right? And many countries want to be vocal for local and bring manufacturing back, because it's not going to make a difference, right? So now the GCCs that want to sell their products in India, right, global entities, would want to manufacture in India as well. There is not going to be making a car in China and then shipping it in US and spending all the cost. It's going to be manufactured locally, consumed locally, right? So the consumer base is important. India's consumer base is going to provide direction to the global companies on where they want to focus on India's demand for manufacturing, and the GCCs are going to evolve being manufacturing GCCs. And I think companies that remain focused only on the servicing or the talent aspect of the GCCs would miss out on this opportunity that AI and robotics is bringing. So I think that's where I see the next decade of growth of GCC. And I'll stop there.
Great. Thanks, Pradip. And I come to you, Shrirang, with the same question.
So I want to see firstly, Infosys, as I said, we are dealing with more than 100 GCC clients, and we're also involved in setting up GCCs in a big way. GCCs of future are actually being set up today, and they will hopefully, grow and become even more effective in the future. 2 points that Dipu made and Arpita made, beautiful points, and I want to pick up because exactly those are what I'm seeing happening on the ground. I'll illustrate it with a story. So we are helping a client build their GCC, and this client, right from the outset, they and us agreed that we will not set this up, we won't even call it a GCC. This is going to be India office of that entity. So they are not treating it as some kind of separate entity with separate way of operating. It is going to be part of their global organization right from the day one. This is extremely important and exactly what you said. You start by integrating it into the global organization. Second thing that Arpita mentioned, the whole modular nature. There is no one way of building a GCC, but given the variety of options that are available, it's possible to pick and choose what works for you. So it could be a Cushman and Wakefield that is doing the infra. It could be Infosys that is doing something else. It could be something that the client does on their own. The story is, that I'll share with you is of an ongoing exercise where we actually have 3 parallel streams. Right? There is a team that Infosys is setting up for the GCC, which is again going to focus on emerging technologies and AI, which right from the get-go is set up for eventual transition to the client. But does that mean that that's the end of the relationship? No, because there's a parallel team that we are setting up, which will be a long-term Infosys team, which we will work on specific areas that are going to stay with us, where the client is clear they don't want to build that capability. And the third is the leadership element. Client is very clear that they want leaders in India who are of the same caliber as their global leadership. And we are helping them hire that third stream of leaders. So to summarize, the GCC of the future as I see it, technology-enabled AI, essentially leading the organization. Secondly, plugged into the local ecosystem. And thirdly, an absolute equal of the global organization.
Wonderful, great. That's the right thing to say, and that's where we are moving. Dipu was also mentioning in an ice-breaking session that I am an employee of the organization, and I have the open. There is no glass ceiling, basically. I could grow into any particular role, and that's how every employee in that organization feels. So, which is great, and that brings me to the last question. This is going a little specific in the future landscape. India's healthcare and life sciences GCCs are leading the front line in innovation, right? There is a lot happening in that space, advancing drug development, clinical trials, and supply chain management. Over 15% of all GCCs employees in India work in healthcare and life sciences sector. So if that's the context, the question that I'm going to go to Dipu with is, what advantages does India offer for running global clinical trials from India GCC hubs?
If you don't mind, I'll answer, just tag on to what my friend was saying, and then get into this particular question, right? So one of my favorite topics always is Indians, who are educated in India, then they go out to the Silicon Valleys outside. They are one of the most innovative people out there, right? If you look at, forget the Nadellas and the superstars, right? That's great. But if you look at any of the organizations in the US, the majority of the superstars who work there are Indians. They are incredibly innovative. And then you always think, why are we not the same here in India? So it's not definitely the talent. It's not the education. It is the environment that is there. So it's wonderful to see with all the startups that are coming here and going for it, that let them fail. That's okay. The culture is changing. Like, Pradip was saying earlier, if you're in a startup founder, their marriage, things is actually not very good, right? We are still in that mindset. Oh, it's going to crash. He's going to go, bankrupt any soon. That's the culture. We need to change all that. The innovation has to be here. Even this stage, very innovative, right? I have not seen in a stage like this. It's like X, like that. So we want that. We want the new gen to be doing that, and that's very important for our new, future of GCCs as well, right? The innovation and talent has to be there. Specifically going to the clinical trial question. So healthcare is like my friend was saying, it's a extremely regulated industry. There is a lot of things. I don't know, many of you know, to develop a new drug these days, it takes about 15 years and about a $1 billion investment, right? A lot of people say, why are medicines that costly in the US and everything? Because they take the majority of the brunt of the cost for basically developing that, right? And clinical trials is one where typically in that 15-year time period, about 10 years is actually on clinical trials. Yes, it's good for all of us that every medicine is tested to that level. I do question it. Do we really need to that level? Can we innovate a little faster? So when you come to that sort of thing, when you're talking 10 years of clinical trials and managing it, nowadays we have a product called Zelta that actually does it. We are about third in the marketplace for that. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of feedback between the patients and the testers. It takes a lot of control. It takes a lot of basically tracking that to completion, getting that. I'm telling you, in the next, I would say 5 years, all of that will be taken by AI. And then, like Pradip was saying, you can fight it, but it's going to be automated. AI is going to manage the clinical trial by itself. That's where we're going to head it. So we need to be prepared for that. We need to go there. We need to upskill our teams. We need to get them in front of it rather than kind of on the side, right? I think we need to do a lot more on the field of AI and developing the India AI ecosystem in that. It could be not only the large language models for India, but all the other infrastructure and support that is needed as well. So,
great, thanks, Dipu. And I think I concur with it. I think all of you would concur with it. One of the IT services industry veterans in India yesterday posted that AI shouldn't be controlled, right? You need to give it to the young talent in their hands so that they try it, they experiment it, and then they build something new. Because when you try to control it in many ways, you basically are a hindrance in innovation. So there are lots of governance models and many things are necessary as well, but we need to see as much freedom as we can give for AI to start doing something innovative and delivering. Well, when we began this panel discussion, I had absolutely no idea that we would have few minutes for Q&A, right? But the panelists have all stuck to the time, and fortunately we have a few minutes for Q&A. So if you have any questions, I'm sure there are people who would come to you with a mic. I would love to address at least a couple of questions from the audience. Anybody, any questions? Or any remarks? Yes, of course. Could someone get to the gentleman with a mic, please? If you could just introduce yourself and ask your question, please.
Hey all, I represent Optimix, myself Hari, and we are a GCC services company. And good to see the conversation, looking forward to where you're talking about the future scale of GCCs in the country, right, at large. Don't you all see GCCs evolving into not just, evolving from cost arbitrage to innovation, and also as a parallel world, I see market access to the Asian market and the Indian market as well, where the HQs from the West and the developed nations wanting to set up GCCs, also looking at GCCs as a market access or a marketplace for them to expand their business. When we look at it at large, we see, GCCs wanting to cut cost at large being the major intention. And as a way you do it, invest a lot into the innovation. But how do you invest into that innovation? How do you generate revenue for that innovation? I see market access or you expanding your market in the Asian market as a major source of investing into your innovation. What's your take on it? Anybody can answer.
Would you like to throw this question to somebody specific?
Anybody who's willing to answer, any leader, yeah.
Yeah, take it, please.
So, sir, as I was saying earlier, right, the cost arbitrage is a negligible percentage of why companies want to come to India, right? Now it's the talent. And how do you translate that into the market share? So that's where I think that cultural transformation is important. I think we love Western products and we pay for them, right? We don't look for autonomous vehicle. We don't see it on our roads yet, but I see it in San Francisco, right? It's a different infrastructure, right? I don't see any Indian entrepreneurs stepping up. I mean, I'm sure Western companies would want to sell autonomous vehicles in India too, but they don't see market potential. There is confusion. Our ecosystem comes across as disorganized market segment, right? So people don't want to step up. But if there is an Indian entrepreneur who wants to take it up, and by the way, I'll give you an example, right? Electric vehicle is a big thing people talk about today, right? I have been driving one for 17 years. It was invented in Bangalore, manufactured in Bangalore, exported to 27 countries. That's a REVA that Mr. Chetan Maini and Maini Group did, right? That's our history, right? I don't know why we are in this doubt still that we can't do it. Somebody has to stand up and say that I'll make it work for India consumer at India price point. And then it's up to them whether they want to be a GCC and get acquired by a big brand name, right? I mean, these days the GCCs work reverse also. Tata goes and buys Jaguar, right? And that's our GCC in the Europe, right? But I think the change has to start from the ground, right? We have to step up as entrepreneurs to solve our problems. If we don't do it, the world views us from a great distance and they're very confused. Few things they have figured out, GCC they have figured out, but they didn't figure out. Infosys and Wipros and some of these companies invented this business model, right? And they stepped up and then there was a great response, right? I think it's time now to take the innovation and this sensitizing, understanding the India market locally, coming up with products and then associating with global brand if you choose to be a GCC, right? I think that's the gap that's missing, and that somehow, I think the next generation will fill it in. I think we are too old to change. We are elephants now.
Great, thanks, Pradip. I think we can take one more question if there is one, or we are happy to conclude as well. Is there another question? Of course, please. Can someone get the mic?
While we wait for that, I just want to add to Pradip, if there is any autonomous AI that can solve driving in India in Bangalore, that will be unbelievable. If you can handle the motorcycles and autos that cut left and right, I'm telling you that'll be an next generation AI.
So check out a company called Edgeverse, by the way, sir. Edgeverse, check it out on LinkedIn. They're based out of Bemal layout, doing exactly that.
Yeah, morning everyone. My name is Kalyan. I'm from Grant Thornton. It's more a curious question. How are the Indian exporters looking at this big change? GCC is coming in. Would that dent their prospects of growing from an India standpoint? I know it could be a parallel market for them, but 10 years from now, what is their vision in terms of the GCCs coming into India and the future of Indian exporters? Thank you.
Yeah, so you want to hear right from the horse's mouth? Are you referring to
yeah,
IT
of course.
services
I'll
provider?
be more curious to hear from Infosys. Yeah, thanks.
No, so you're absolutely right. And if you had asked this question maybe 5 years ago, when GCCs were, there was this whole thing and people are confused. How do you deal with them? Are they competitors? Are they clients? Are they whatever? And frankly, some of the GCC leaders also had this thought in their mind. Some leaders here would agree with me that even when we had meetings, they were also wondering that are we competitors? Are we friends? Are we enemies? Whatever. But things have evolved. And I believe that going back to Arpita's point, which is what I think we should have. The future is modular, right? No one is going to have an India office that can just subsist by itself without being well plugged in with SI companies like an Infosys, an infra provider like a Cushman and Wakefield, or any of these other like the recruitment firms, right? That is the future. If Infosys as an organization has to get plugged in, we got to be part of it. That is why we have set up this GCC practice, and like I said, we are over 100 clients ongoing as of now. So we see it, and I'm speaking not just for myself or my organization, but I think for the entire industry. Everyone was confused initially, but are clear now. That the future is tightly integrated ecosystem, where you will have a play, your GCC clients will have a play, and the aim is to essentially grow the market together. Right?
Yeah, I think there will always be something or the other which every company will need to outsource. And there are three kinds of GCCs that Pradip kind of referred to. Cost arbitrage maybe, but the other two, it is going to remain for a very long time. But with that, we come to the conclusion of this panel discussion. I would like to really thank each and every panelist of mine. Thank you for your valuable insights. Pradip, Arpita, Anil, Dipu, Vikas. And we would just like to conclude the discussion here, but my panelists and myself, we will be available if you have further questions. We can interact during the breaks. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for patient listening.